Hello and welcome to Super Rugby Round 5 review, brought to you by DrivingMaul. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, a website, podcast, Twitter account and YouTube channel, bringing you the best in rugby predictions and opinion. Don't forget to subscribe on your favourite podcasting app so we drop into your phone every week or just about every night at the moment during Super Rugby season. And also please leave us with a 5-star review. Other stars are available, but why would you want to do that? If you'd like to watch what happens behind the covers, the show is live on YouTube at 8 PM New Zealand time every Monday. And if you are watching on YouTube, click down below, click subscribe so that you get notified of all of the shows that I do. Joining me this week, I have Jess on her first review show. How are you doing, Jess?
Good, thank you. I just want to be clear really quickly that this is an All Blacks jersey, not a Blues one.
Oh, dear me. And this is a proper Blues jersey, vintage BNZ. There we go, Blues all the way. And yes, they did lose, but never mind. We'll get over that at some point in our lives because, hey, it always happens. So Jess was actually in Hamilton at the FMG Stadium. Is FMG? I think so. Anyway, whatever. Yeah. At the Waikato Stadium anyway. And so we will have an insight as to the atmosphere and all that kind of stuff. And then joining me all the way from Southeast Asia, it's Hermann. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine, sir. And I have to show, I don't wear a rugby jersey. I have like a Brazilian polo jersey, official for Brazilian national team in polo. So, is that good enough?
Oh, dear. Well, I've got a question for you. Have you tried elephant polo?
I haven't.
So elephant polo is big in Southeast Asia. I did try and play elephant polo when I used to live in Asia, but yeah, it just was prohibitively expensive. But yes, definitely give that a go. It looks an absolute blast, and I would love to. That's something on my bucket list is to do that. Is to watch. Is to play elephant polo. So as we do normally, we'll start with the tangent. It's always good. So back to the rugby. And Jess, why don't you take us through it? You were there at the Chiefs versus the Bulls. 41-28 makes it look rather comfortable, but it was anything but.
Yeah, I mean, I was right down the end. I didn't realise I got tickets right on the try line that was not active for both halves of the game. So that was unfortunate. From where I was sitting, the Bulls looked really aggressive, really fast, and we weren't committing to our tackles at all, is what I felt. I think we're scared to be injured. That was the impression I got, is we're really scared, and we still got injuries in the game. But in the first half, we were just not onto it.
Now, and the Bulls were 21-7 up from memory in that first half. They really did look dangerous, both going wide. And I think most of the tries came out wide eventually. But this really was an all singing, all dancing Bulls performance. We had two lines of attack. Much more New Zealand-esque rather than your standard South African forwards bashing it up. And Herman, you can really see the impact of Mitchell on this side already.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost confusing watching that first half because it clearly looked like the Bulls were the New Zealand team. I mean, their offloading game was superb in the first half. And they had really the Chiefs under the pump. And I would say, Chiefs were maybe a little bit lucky with the referee there for a while in the first half too, because he was very hesitant to give him any yellow cards. And I think the penalty count was it 8-0 for a while before we got the first warning.
I missed that, but I must say, looking at the stats, we had 13 offloads for the Chiefs, but only 4 for the Bulls. So whilst it was we had those two lines of attack, we had lots of good passing, using plenty of width. It wasn't so much out the tackle; it was before. It was sort of draw the defender and then pass it, rather than actually necessarily the New Zealand-esque of actually take contact, free the hands, and get the ball away. Equally as effective in that first half, but a different style.
Very slick. Sorry.
No, that's okay. The second half, though, I think that the Chiefs this year are really thriving under this, getting themselves into as much trouble as possible and coming back from it. I actually really like to see it. I feel like they're a team that if they get too far behind, they give up. And they have to be really careful with that. But if they get some momentum, and they always seem to come back after halftime and they have like this new, I don't know what goes on in the changing rooms, but they've got this new life to them. And then if they can get enough momentum, they can turn a game around just like they did. They do it all the time. I actually refer to them as a second half team. But they really seem to give up if they feel they're getting too far behind.
And well, we didn't see that today. Or Friday. Sorry, today. It's Monday. We're already like 4 days ago. So we didn't see that then. But we saw them come back, and they did very well to hold the Bulls scoreless in that second half. They had their opportunities, the Bulls, but it seemed that at the breakdown, in particular, the Chiefs managed to get those critical turnovers at the right time. And turnovers, there were 12 turnovers by the Chiefs and 16 by the Bulls. Neither of the attack coaches will be happy with those stats.
No, he will not.
Do you want to talk about the hit on Damien Mackenzie and whether you think that was a yellow or a red or?
Good point. Yep. No, we should bring up the controversial. To me, Damien Mackenzie was going down.
But he has every right to duck if he feels like he's about to be hit.
I don't. Well, if you are falling into a tackle and you get hit on the head, that's generally considered a mitigating circumstance to it. It was a swinging arm. He did catch him on the head, but for me, Damien Mackenzie was falling, and so therefore yellow rather than red.
Yeah.
But still, yeah, I think yellow.
It seems to be every week now, though. It's a little bit of a reoccurring theme for him. Do you think other teams are sort of targeting him, or?
Sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Of course, everyone. You have to target him. You have to be aware of him. Now,
you don't have to
I was going to say, but if he's going to be falling into tackles all the time, then yes, he's going to get hit.
Do you think it's as simple as he's just not as big as the other guys, so it does seem like he's falling, but he just doesn't have the stature that they have?
No, I think he was falling. Brent actually pulls up a good point in the chat. Bulls have gone scoreless in the second half in 2 consecutive games now. So there we go.
So maybe they're the team that actually give up. Maybe I misspoke. Maybe they're the ones that give up.
Again, I think that they. Well, I say there were. I've only seen the highlights of this one. I've not seen the whole game, but there were two very strong breaks by the Bulls. Both of them that could have been tries, but they fluffed it and got turned over. So I don't think really that. I think the Chiefs stepped it up, and if you just look at the tackle stats, the Chiefs were making.
Did you see they released a list of who got injured in this week's game again? And there's about 4 of them.
I've not seen that. I have seen one that I've seen a comment from the Chiefs saying, "Please respect the players' privacy around their injuries."
I believe that's because one player, they're not saying what injury he has that's taken him out. They said they wanted to respect his privacy. So I think it might be something that's not related to physical injury. So I think that was what that was in reference to. I don't want to say what player it was, but yeah.
Oh, you know, eh?
I just noticed a few weeks ago they said, they were listing the injuries and what was wrong with the players, and then for one player they said, we don't want to say what's wrong, but he will be out indefinitely. So I think maybe they were just talking about that.
Yeah, I think the problem with that though is, and I understand that there are times when players will want privacy, but we've got to be careful about that. Is that having seen what happened to Patrick Tuipulotu, I think, at the beginning of last season, where he failed his A sample failed a drugs test. We were coming into Super Rugby 4 months later, 5 months later, 4 months later. They still hadn't done the B sample. They still hadn't gone through the process. And you're like, okay, if you're not talking about what's happening, is this drugs related? What is it related to? And it makes people start speculating. I think on the whole, if they can, they should be open and honest about it. A lot of injuries or that were taboos in the old days aren't as much of a taboo nowadays. So, for example, if it is depression, so I know one of the player for Cardiff Blues in Europe is taking a season out for due to depression, has had to for that side of things, and has had a lot of support from the rugby community. So yeah, it does lead to insinuation and people guessing.
But I guess they do have a right. Do they not have a right to privacy? They don't want to, be public about what is wrong.
They have a right, but I'm not sure it's always the way. I mean, can take a good chief example here. Was what happened to Brody Retallick last season.
Yeah.
And this is like a massive tragedy, but many will keep quiet about. He went out of it, and my guess is he got nothing but support from this because everyone knew what happened to him. And speaking about Brody Retallick, wow, what a second half!
Yeah, he was amazing.
He looked like he won that game by himself almost. You mean?
Yeah.
I would probably say if he wouldn't have played that second half, you would probably not have won that game.
Yeah.
That's how good he was.
His try was incredible. Well, he had two, but
tries.
The one where he was just like no one was getting his way, just running it straight to that line.
Yeah, you can almost see like the almost 50 meters out to a try line, like I'm gonna go for it. Doesn't matter with 3 defenders here.
Andre goes and says, I think it's fatigue. Never heard of an unfit John Mitchell team. I think it's a learning curve and will take time to get used to his patterns. And yes, I think that's probably part of what we're seeing with the Bulls is that they are learning. Some of the attack play we saw at the weekend was very different to the one we saw against the Hurricanes, where we had the locks offloading or the type 5s offloading down the channel a lot. This time they played much wider against the Chiefs, and it's interesting to see that they can play. It does appear they can sort of play a couple of different styles. But we're over a third of the way through the show already, and we haven't even got past the first game. So please strap yourselves in, folks. This one could be a longer show than normal. Moving on to the second game of the weekend.
That's unusual. That's very unusual.
I did try. Okay. Just like I used to say, I said to the Blood and Mud podcast, which is a good English podcast. They aim for an hour and always hit about an hour and a half. And they said, oh, perhaps we should just not bother aiming for an hour. And I said, no, guys, please try and aim for an hour. It keeps you under 5 hours. So if you aim, so it's always a good idea to try and keep yourself under control. So we followed up that there was no Australian game on Friday night. So the next game was the Highlanders versus the Crusaders on Saturday night. 2 losses on the trot now for the Crusaders. Are they people who just don't like leaving home? Because that's
no, I think it comes down to Richie Mo'unga being out. Mitch Hunt isn't ready.
You're quite right. I think I'd have to agree. I think that Richie Mo'unga is a massive loss for them. We also had Whitelock out and Crotty out as well. 3 very important players for the Crusaders side. And it doesn't matter how deep your squad is. If you're missing those players, plus you're missing the starting All Blacks props, plus you're missing Kieran Reid, it starts to add up.
By the way,
Kieran Reid is having shoulder surgery, I believe.
Okay.
Back surgery. You're right. Yeah, back surgery.
Okay.
And also, obviously, Israel Dag as well is also missing. So you're missing half an All Blacks team, effectively.
Yeah. 7, but 6 of them probably starters.
I feel a little bad for Mitch Hunt, to be honest. I think he's just in over his head.
Yeah, and I was a bit surprised that Marty Mackenzie left. I always thought that Marty Mackenzie was going to get his opportunity there, but it sort of didn't.
Well, he played for Taranaki last year, and the Taranaki coach is now the Chiefs coach, so I assume he got sort of first in, first served, and was like, come to the Chiefs. But
I mean, he wasn't. I mean, Mitch Hunt wasn't even starting fly half for Taranaki because Perifetto was starting there, and Mitch Hunt was at 15. So, not Mitch Hunt. Sorry, rewind. Marty Mackenzie was at 15, and Perifetto was at 10. So maybe I'm just over egging Marty Mackenzie's skills on this.
That's okay. We're a pro Mackenzie podcast. So.
It's now official. We are now a pro Mackenzie podcast. So Marty, actually, we'll have Marty. We'll have you on first, and Damien Hay. If we can fit you in, we'll fit you in later. But yes, I thought that they obviously missed him. I thought Mitch Drummond's box kicking was also very poor. Quite a few. They were either too short or too long. Mainly too long. If you're going to play a kicking game against the Highlanders, you have to get it right, because Naholo, Ben Smith, and amazingly enough, Tavita Lee in this game, both of them were kicking. They 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 were just will run it back at you, and it's going to be, pardon me, it's going to cost you.
Yeah. It will. But I'm still going to do a little shout out to Crusaders, because I thought, like, in the first half, Highlanders really had their number. It was almost looking, oh, this is going to be a blowout eventually. But Crusaders, even with so many guys out, they just know how to negate other teams and, like, slowly, like, get the game into where we want. The problem this time, we were just too many points behind and playing a way too good team. But I think it's a massive strength that we've been doing with so many good players out, and we still eventually can negate pretty much every team in Super Rugby, it seems.
Yeah, but I think they've got to a level now where they've got some players who are good, but have some serious weaknesses. So Matalele, again, had some moments of magic this week that scored a try, but he also missed 4 tackles, which when you're coming off the bench and missing 4 tackles, you've not even been on for the whole game, then that's really some kind of effort at avoiding people.
What about the best moment of that game, where Mitch Hunt did his backwards kick in an indoor stadium? You can't even blame a breeze for that. That was all him.
Oh no! Well, you see, what they have actually down there is they have a guy who stands by a door, and whenever the opposition are about to kick, he opens the door, and that causes a sudden gust of wind through the stadium. It's home advantage they have, you see. But now that was one of the most embarrassing kicks we've seen in a long time. If it wasn't for there's no excuse. He has as much time in the ball as he likes to take a drop kick. He takes these regularly at restarts, practices it. It's not like Chris Ashton. I don't know if you saw that one about 2 months ago, where he's in his own in-goal area and manages to slice the kick so it lands also in his own in-goal area, and gives up a try for Toulon. So at least then he's running with the ball and making a kick. It's a restart. Everything's there for him to get it right, and how he missed it, that messed it up that badly, I really don't know.
But for Mitch Hunt, a little excuse. I mean, it was a shocker, but we have to remember he probably made the best kick in Super Rugby ever last season. So.
Yeah, that was, I guess it was karma, wasn't it?
It was probably, he used all his luck for that kick, and now it came back.
Yeah.
And what I did find surprising was actually that we would talk about the strength of the Crusaders pack often, and how the Highlanders have got one of the weaker packs, and they rely on their backs much more. But the Highlanders actually had a heavier pack than the Crusaders, which surprised me in that game, and they did well. One shout out again for a Crusaders player, though. I think Cody Taylor had a good game, and for someone who, when he played in that Fiji or was it Samoa Test, there was lots of suggestions that he was going to be a one-test All Black. I think he's proved a lot of those doubters very much wrong with his play. So
Totally agree. And other thing about Highlanders too, that's worth mentioning, it's Liam Squire got injured in the first half, and Elliot Dixon came in and probably
he was better than
Squire. It was not a loss at all.
Yeah, I agree. He did really, really well.
And Big Brother Dixon, sorry.
I think Elliot Squire's only sort of not starting because he's coming back from injury. Otherwise, he would have been starting as well.
And Big Brother Dixon had a really good game from the bench too. So there were two forwards from the Highlander bench that came on early and basically made the team stronger. So.
Yep, and because I try and name one stat per game. I'm going to say a key stat in this one was turnovers conceded: 13 by the Highlanders and 19 by the Crusaders. 19 turnovers by the Crusaders. That's not the kind of play you normally expect from them. They're definitely out of sorts at the moment. So then we went over to the Brumbies versus the Sharks. I backed the Brumbies by 3, and they won 24-17 against the Sharks. And this was a bit of a traditional grind-out game. Basically, the Brumbies got into the lead and then just used scoreboard pressure to win the game. They didn't look particularly strong for me, and then neither did the Sharks either.
I agree. I mean, Sharks is pretty frustrating to watch, because if you look through their team roster, they have some real talent there, but it doesn't seem that it comes together for them at all, at the moment at least.
No, it doesn't. But I think both this one was where the defences got on top. It's one of the few games we've had in Super Rugby where both sides have averaged over 80% on their tackle count. 81% for the Brumbies, 86 for the Sharks. So opportunities were few and far between in this game.
Yeah, I think Brumbies is also right in the middle of changing their style, because they have been very forward oriented the last 2-3 seasons. But it's clear that they're trying to play some more attacking rugby, but obviously it's not coming easy for them at all. But there were patterns in it. There were at least patterns in it. So it was a slight improvement for Brumbies compared to, especially to the last 2 games they played, where they have been looked pretty dire, actually.
Yeah, they have been. And yes, I'm sorry, Andre, who is actually a Sharks fan. He says, skip the Sharks game. Both teams were and are rubbish.
Yeah,
I agree.
I saw so much anti-Shark tweets on my timeline. I was like, what did they do so wrong? And no one could tell me. They were just really mad.
Well, I say the tackle rate was high up there, but the Brumbies got 7 clean line breaks to 4, and that ended up being the difference in the game, that the Brumbies managed to get ahead, kick the sticks, and that made that meant that the Sharks had to chase the game, and the Sharks just really didn't. Just unfortunately are a sign out of form, and when you're trying to chase a game and you're out of form, then it's like you're running in treacle, and unfortunately that's what it was for them. That if they got the score and were ahead, they had a chance, but they didn't. And I say every time they penalised, they made the kick break down. The Brumbies have a long range kicker, and he was slotting them over, and that just kept the scoreboard ticking over and just kept their necks in front. Then we go on over to South Africa, to a game where I think a lot of people, including myself, probably got over optimistic about the Blues. I backed the Blues by 3, and I was one of the narrower margins of people. The Stormers won this one 37-20 in the end. I was again impressed by Ladies, who's the fullback come Lades. I was impressed how they switched him in and out of that sort of first receiver role, and really meant that the Blues just couldn't cope with the quick game plan, and with 24-3 down at half time. They really started slowly.
It's never going to be easy.
Do you think that the blue jerseys played any factor at all, just to give the Blues something? Do you think that was confusing for the players?
Keep happening.
This is one of the. We have plenty of shirt clashes in Super Rugby. It has been appalling, but the Stormers and the Blues jerseys were just so similar. It made it difficult watching. Somebody claimed that they reckon there were about 3 or 4 infringements at Maul time that no one saw, because no one could figure out who the hell was who. Oops, sorry on the swear words there.
You're the one that says we can't swear.
Exactly, I know. I'm just angry. This is something that it's just so easy to fix. And this is one of the topics we will be talking about tomorrow night on Hash Rugby Chat, is how to fix the jersey problems, because it is appalling at the moment. But a bit like against the Lions last week, the Blues were slow starters, allowed the opposition to get a lead, tried to come back, but it was too little too late. And this time, basically the passing didn't stick, whereas last week it did. I don't think the Blues played that differently to last week.
I agree with you, Paul. I'm very much, because a lot of people were stoked about the Blues finally getting a good win away against the Lions, but I think you said on the last show too that there was a lot of Hail Mary rugby in the last 20 minutes, and it all came through for them. And to expect that kind of style going to come through week on week, it's very risky.
Yeah, it's some really poor play. With 10 turnovers from the Stormers, 19 turnovers from the Blues. If you're giving the ball up that often, you're not going to get very far.
And the Stormers had the travel back, even though it was a home game for them. They travelled back from New Zealand as well.
Yeah, and this is something we actually talked about after the Waratahs.
Hurricanes.
Sorry.
Hurricanes also came from tour back home and beat the Crusaders. Yeah. It seems like the traveling factor, it is interesting.
And the Warriors just came back from tour and beat the Rebels as well. So I say this is something we talked about after the Waratahs game, was that the scheduling seems to be a bit of a joke, in that players aren't, in that teams aren't getting it. They should get a week off after their longest trip home, but they're not getting that, and so which seems a joke. But somehow the travelling side seems to do better than the non-travelling side, which just seems crazy. But hey, not sure what's going on there. Some stats, so I mentioned that. The other one that caught my eye: defenders beaten 29-31, so fairly even, but clean breaks 20-11. So clearly, the Stormers just were better at making those breaks and also making those breaks stick. The Blues weren't. They really cannot afford to start this slowly going forwards. They nearly got lucky in this one because the Stormers were all cramping up, and I thought they might have to sub off their entire team because so many of them were just lying around on the floor half the time. But yep, it just meant they were trying too hard. I mean, Sonny Bill Williams tried too hard, gave up an interception try. Engelbrecht was a player that really stood out for me in this game for the Stormers. Anyone for
Willemse? What do you think about him, the fly half in Stormers?
I think a young kid who's done very well.
Yeah, he looks promising. Huh?
It looks really promising, and I think it helps that they've got Lades who steps in and takes a lot of the pressure off him, so he's not having to do it all himself. He's got other guys there who can play with him. I was impressed by his play against the Highlanders. I mean, he didn't play against the Chiefs. He had that night off, and Lades played at 10 against the Chiefs, I think it was. But yeah, no, I've been impressed by him otherwise. So we had Lions versus the Sunwolves, perhaps the most surprising game of the weekend.
I guess by 30, I backed the Lions really hard. How embarrassing.
I backed the Lions by 35, so I went even bigger than that.
Yeah, so we're both idiots, I guess.
Herman, can you remember?
I told you they were going to win this year. I said that.
Herman, can you remember what your margin?
2-3 points to Lions, something like that. No.
oh, bang on.
Not really.
There were some really interesting stats from this one. Okay, so Lions 40, Sunwolves 38, so only 2 points. So I'm not sure there's that much we can. We can't go through all the scores, and we're already pretty much nearly out of time. So we've got more games to go. But the important one to me was just they never let the game get out of control. They were always within 2 scores, and I think that's what made the difference in this one. Is that they kept scoring themselves, which kept them in this game.
Yeah, but I think like if I may, I just gonna go in like in defense mode of Sunwolves. Why I think some people are a bit premature of judging them out. First of all, they had their preseason started about 3 or 4 weeks before the Super Rugby season. They didn't play any preseason games, so they're actually like 2 months behind all other teams. So what you were actually seeing, they're playing preseason yet, but I think it's pretty clear that they are improving. If you compare the results now, that they played the same team last time, they're improving all the time. And now they're 2 out of 4 games. Looking back, the first game against Brumbies, they should probably have won it. They were the better side, and to push Lions this far, it's also very, very impressive. Another thing I think a little bit underlooked is all the new players they brought in. There's a lot of quality there. As soon as Jamie Joseph he's obviously searching for his first 15 also, because they're doing massive changes in the lineup every week. But as soon as they get that right and they get into the tournament again, I think we're gonna see them. I predict they won 1 game the first season, 2 games the second season, so they're gonna at least win 3 games this season.
I think part of Jamie Joseph's problem is injuries. Is like we've heard this for a lot of teams, but yeah, he's down to only 2 recognised locks in the side. I think it is. So he's not only did he have to start late with the teams, but also the locks there. So Floyd Pink, thank you very much, sir, for the super chat. Were the Wolves good, or did the Lions have a shocker?
I think the Lions, what appears to me at least, is when Warren Whiteley doesn't play for Lions, they look so much, like not so structured, not so organized. He seems to be like a real glue player in the team. So I think losing out him is massive for them.
I think actually this is down to the Sunwolves playing well. I mean, they made over 505 meters running compared to the Lions only 343. They got themselves. So to me, I think they kept themselves in it rather than necessarily the Lions playing badly. Now we still had the horrible charge down from the Sunwolves, so they still were giving away their obligatory one mistake try that we always seem to get.
Per game. Yeah.
One per game.
Highlight.
We can call them out. I mean, the first one, first game they passed the ball into the post and scored. The second game they passed straight over someone's head and gave up a try. And today they decided at the beginning of the second half it was time to give up a try and allowed an easy charge down.
Am I seeing the statistic right? What, the Lions didn't have any offloads? Is that correct?
Yep, I was going to get on to playing style. So stats here: 11 clean breaks from the Lions to 6 from the Sunwolves. So that shows you that they used a lot more continuity, and you can see that in the way they played. So the Lions had 0 offloads, whereas the Sunwolves had 11 offloads, which is I think that probably it gives you perhaps some thought as to how the Lions are planning on playing. But I think one of the things that that came up was that one of the things I remember from Ireland when Joe Smith first started there was like, look, no one is allowed to offload. Everyone has to be going in for a quick ruck ball, and we're going for a quick ruck ball instead of offloads. And he added offloads in about 2 or 3 seasons later, and that was the style there. So maybe there's an element of the Lions players deliberately running lines that are for clearing out players rather than for offloads to get quick ruck ball. And using that as a way to do it. I'm not sure that really worked for them because they conceded 18 turnovers to 9 from the Sunwolves. I think Sunwolves worked their backsides off at the breakdown and did very well there. So yeah, I think that was a big move. Both sides though seemed to forget what tackling was about.
How many missed tackles did the Sunwolves have in this one?
Well, they both only made 64% of their tackles. So Sunwolves had 35 missed tackles, and the Lions had 33 missed tackles. Oh, yeah. That's just crazy.
Not great.
I think after the first 2 games, Sunwolves had the best tackling percentage in the whole competition, but also was the time when all their players got injured. So it was like, I guess in some times you should maybe not go full on in every tackle.
Save it to the end of season. Yeah.
It looked great on the stats, but we didn't miss any tackles, but the injury count was boom.
So from memory, the Lions are going to go from this game, which they won by 2 points against the Sunwolves. Next week, I think they fly over and play the Jaguares from memory.
Yep.
So Brett's asking, offloading in the tackle, what does that stop refer to? Well, it means offload, passing when you're being tackled. Offloading.
Yeah.
Which shows that the Lions pass the ball before they get tackled rather than after contact. Which is something we said about the Bulls as well. The Bulls' style is to pass, is to draw the player and pass rather than waiting for the tackle and getting your hands free. Jaguares, Reds. Sorry.
Sorry. Is it the Sunwolves playing against Chiefs this coming weekend?
Yeah, correct. In Japan.
Yeah. In Japan. Oh, this could be the one.
Yeah. Why do you have to say that? Honestly, why not? Because we can't afford any more injuries, so maybe we'll let them have it.
Yes, send the juniors up and take a loss.
Yeah, and then we've actually got the Oops, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no. Last year you played the Sunwolves at home. You only won with 27-20.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
But, we got to the semi-finals, so it kind of been that bad.
Well, but Sunwolves beat the Blues.
Yeah, and then the Blues beat the Lions, and then the Lions beat the All Blacks. So maybe the Sunwolves are actually the greatest team in the world.
Okay. The Blues were on holiday by the time they played that game. That really was not a decent game. But my point was going to be the Lions have just beaten the Sunwolves by just 2 points. They're off over to Argentina. They've lost their last 2 games in Argentina. So Could this be a run of 2 losses against the 2 worst teams in Super Rugby, or can the Lions turn it round? That is something we will talk and go into in-depth analysis of on Thursday night, when we preview the series. But the Jaguares this weekend didn't do too great against the Reds. They lost 7-18 against the Reds. That's 3 wins on the trot for the Reds. Are they perhaps the real deal? Are they much better than we think?
No. So,
is that no, or you don't know? No, they're not.
No, it's a no. I mean, as far as Australian team go, I guess they're all right, but who have they been up
Mackenzie from you?
Yeah.
Because this, to me, this was a 7-18. Clearly, there weren't many scores in this game. This was a big defensive effort. Another game where the tackling hit the 80s, so 83% by the Jaguares and 86% by the Reds. The Reds got through a massive 188 tackles in this game. That's there was that's 100 more tackles than the Lions had to make against the Sunwolves, and that's quite that's a lot of work to go through.
I think it's time to do like the little shout out for Bradford now. I mean, after the first game against the Rebels, everyone was like, "Oh, this is gonna go terribly, terribly wrong." And now we have 3 wins on the trot, and all 3 wins like gritty forward pack wins. You know, heating up in the coach box.
As you say, gritty forward pack wins. I guess that's the easier part to get right, isn't it? I mean, there was only really one person I was going to call out from this game, which was Timu, the number 8 for the Reds, who got through 18 tackles, which was a high for his team. He also got through 12 carries, which was a high for the team, 62 meters, a high for the team, and had 2 clean breaks, which was another high for the Reds team. So this was a one man show from Timu in this game.
Not a one-man show, but just heaping praise over the forward pack. Even no, it was a one-man show. You know?
No, actually, to be fair to the forward pack, they did out-scrummage the Jaguares quite comprehensively. So yes, the Reds really have got their forwards going well.
And I mean, if you're building a new team and a new culture, you always want to start to get the defense and the forward pack right. Because if you get that right, it's going to be so much more easy to build structures for the attacking and for the backs later on.
It is, and I guess it's much easier for the halfbacks if they can get front football from their forwards, clearly. But the Jaguares in this game, 27 turnovers conceded. They had the opportunities to win this game, and they just really were not looking after the pill. The Reds gave it up 15 times. But that was just crazy. Anyway, we're over time. 1 more game to go. Waratahs versus Rebels. Again, I think this was a game that a lot of us got wrong. I went Wolves by 3, and I've realised I've not written down the score on my notes. But the end score was 51-27 to the Tars. And at half time, the Rebels were winning 10-20. Game of 2 halves.
23. It was a game of 4 halves.
Talk that the Chiefs got at halftime, clearly.
Yeah, Hermann's going to stolen one of the quotes from the post game reaction that we did yesterday. It was a game of 4 halves. The temperature in
crazy
in Sydney was crazy. Was it 37, 38 degrees?
37, yeah.
So they ended up having 20. Basically, they played 4 quarters of 20 minutes with water breaks after 20 minutes. So that was nuts. Sia Floyd, great, thanks for joining in. This game was all about that second half performance by the Tars. They had 67% of possession, 71% of territory. The Rebels just couldn't hold on to the ball.
Yeah, but I think one of the big changes that the Waratahs did that has been fans and some pundits been shouting out for years. Did you see Israel Folau played on the wing?
Yep, Israel Folau played on the wing.
And they couldn't have. They didn't know how to handle him. No, he was destroying them.
Well, he wasn't in the first half. In the first half, he was pretty anonymous, really. Or we had some very typical play by the Tars in that first half, which was Folau would not pass the ball to anybody apart from Hooper or Beale or Foley. If he saw it was somebody else, he would just hold on to the ball and get tackled. He just doesn't trust anyone else on the pitch, which is really a sad thing to see.
You think he doesn't trust them, or do you think that he over trusts himself, rates himself? That he?
I think he rates himself. Rates those 4 players ahead of everyone else. I don't think he trusts anyone else on the pitch apart from those 3. Is my opinion of it. And what we saw was that he actually passed to someone else once the Tars. I think it was. I think there was something like 34 points or 14 points in the lead, and then you saw the first time him actually pass the ball to somebody else, and they scored a try straight from it. So,
damn, you hard on Israel Folau. He had an awesome game, but
oh no, he had an awesome game. But what we saw was in that second half, Foley and Beale just put high balls up onto the right wing where he was, and as you're right, he won the aerial battle, and by doing so, he won the game.
Yeah. They couldn't live with him. Like really, it was if I may, it's an Australian rugby site I follow a little bit called The Roar, and one of their most famous columnists there had before the game he was killing Daryl Gibson. How could you move the best fullback in the world to the wing? This is the most stupid move ever. Really. And today he wrote a new column. He doesn't really address this, but all the ones who comment are very, very much reminding of what did you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's for the Rebels lost the aerial battle. The Tars kicked the ball from hand 32 times, which meant they became very one-dimensional. But it was a one-dimensional ploy that worked. The Rebels in that first half went really well, and they both sides made about 550, 560 meters with ball in hand. But the Rebels did that with 82 runs, whereas the Waratahs took 134 runs to make the same number of yards. So they weren't. So it was all that kicking that basically won the game. And if you've already got yourself up to the 22 by kicking it there, you're not going to run as far, basically. And so they didn't need to run as far. But Folau got through a lot of running, chasing the ball, and that was basically what won the game. Because all the other stats are pretty even. 23 to 22 clean breaks. Both sides again decided that tackling was optional. 67% for the Waratahs and 71% for the Rebels. So no tackling was allowed. Don't want to injure players. But it was. I say this again was one in the air rather than on the ground.
But it's kind of surprising that neither Waratahs or the Wallabies hasn't been using this weapon more. I mean, they kick very, very few balls to Israel Folau.
I have a funny feeling after seeing this game that we're going to see an awful lot more of that.
Yeah. But
who are typically their wingers for the Wallabies?
Sorry?
Who are typically the wingers for the Wallabies?
It's pretty a lot of company. Korobete is probably he came in pretty last season, but I'm pretty sure he's the first choice.
Okay.
So Korobete and then normally Dame Hallett-Petty on the other wing, who is normally a fullback. So you could very easily switch Dame Hallett-Petty and Folau around, and then play this tactic for the Wallabies, basically. And that's what they should do if Dame Hallett-Petty can get over his concussion issues, because he looked in a bad way this weekend. I've never seen a player. I can't remember seeing a player who's had a head knock and is then convulsing on the ground. It was very sad to see. So the idea that he was ever going to come back from that HIA was farcical. So thankfully he did stay off. Cool. Any final points about the weekend that you want to have a chat about?
One thing, if I may. Have you? It was I don't know exactly what happened. I rewatched it. Have you heard about the game that Spain missed out on the World Cup and how it happened?
Game, but go ahead.
So Spain only had to beat Belgium away, which is like by far the worst team in their qualifying group. The only team that could actually pass Spain and take their place in the World Cup is Romania. But Romania played away against Georgia, so everyone knew we were going to lose that one. But the problem was it was a Romanian head referee. All three referees were from Romania in the Belgium-Spain game. And the penalty count...
I see where you're going.
Belgium won this game. The penalty count was 28-8 in Belgium's favor.
Yeah, I've seen a few comments, especially from the Scottish canon, around this, who's been on the show before. Yeah, I didn't see the game, but as you say, the head of European rugby is from Romania.
And they asked him to change the referee a month ago. Spain asked him, please change the referee for this game, but the Romanian president said, nah, we keep it like this.
So that is, at the very least, it looks very bad. Okay. The refereeing was apparently poor, and Spain got the rough end of it. Now, can we say it was deliberately poor their way or against them?
Yeah, we don't.
I don't know. I haven't seen the game, so I definitely can't comment on that piece. But yeah, it clearly is a very bad look. World Rugby needs to look into this because, yeah,
they will. They will. I saw a tweet from Agustin Pinochet, the Argentinian vice president.
Yep.
He said on Twitter that I just came back from Europe, like one of the plane on the airplane, and I got 200 messages about this game. I will watch it and come back to you. What could help Spain, though, we should not go too deep in it, because there is a pretty strong interest from the World Rugby and also probably long-term from the Six Nations to get Spain up and running on a higher level, because obviously there are financial benefits of having Spain as a Tier 1 nation, which you will have with Romania.
Well, yeah, I've seen there's much more interest in Germany than Spain, and let's be honest,
Germany,
the German economy is much stronger than the Spanish one. I mean, the Spanish one has got plenty of half-built airports around the country after the euro collapse some years ago. So Spain are doing very well. Their women made the Women's Rugby World Cup and are probably stronger than 2 or 3 of the teams in the Six Nations. Unfortunately, the Six Nations Women's Tournament mirrors the men's, and it's not necessarily the strongest six women's teams in Europe. It's just the same teams as the men, which I don't think is the right way to go about it. And yeah, how can the Spanish women be expected to grow? They also made, the Spanish women and the Spanish men both made the Rio Olympics in the 70s as well. So rugby in Spain is definitely on the up, which is great to see. But there is questions as to where do they grow to, which I guess is the same question we have for Georgia, the same question we have for Romania, and we might be asking the same question of Germany in a couple of years' time as well. But yeah, that's where do they grow to is the question.
But that's for another show almost, huh?
That is for another show. Jess, any final points?
I'm good.
You're good? I do have one final one that we might bring up in Hash Rugby Chat, but or somewhere else. But to me, one of the things I saw during that caught me, that I spotted during the Lions versus the Sunwolves game, but probably has been going on for a while now, was after there was been a try, you have someone there with water bottles for the players. But this time, what was very noticeable was they huddled around the guy, and he was basically lecturing them as a coach halfway through the game. And I'm not sure that we've already seen that teams change their tactics, seem to be able to change tactics at half time, but not during the half, which shows a lack of leadership on the pitch. To now have coaches going out after a try has been scored and being able to coach the players, I find is something is a direction that I don't want the game to go in personally. So that was just one thing that I spotted there.
But I've seen this many times, especially more like when, like if a captain or the vice captain is not playing, it's very, very common you see them act as water boys. And they obviously got a earphone from a head coach, to like just get out there and give a message.
Well, one of the funniest things that Dan Carter, I remember Dan Carter saying, was that Richard McCaw was one of the worst tea boys around, carrying out the kicking tea. Yeah, Richard McCaw, he's like, tell me a quick joke, relax me. And Richard McCaw's like, what? It's like, yes, yeah. So apparently, Richard McCaw is one of the worst guys to have carrying the kicking tea out there for you. So whilst Richie has got many strengths, carrying a tea and cracking a joke apparently is not one of them. Cool. Anyway, thank you everybody. It's been a fantastic show. Sorry that we've overrun, and hopefully you have long enough commute to listen to the podcast. But Jess, why don't you let people know where they can chat all things rugby with you during the week?
I am on Twitter at JAM8391. My name is Humble Kiwi Jess on there.
Cool. And obviously, thank you, Herman, for joining us. But you are the social media ghost, and no one can find you on there. So no Twitter account. Barely even registers on Facebook. I can hardly see him. He's such a ghost in the virtual world. So thank you, everybody. I've been Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, and I will actually be Paul for the rest of the night as well, and tomorrow. You can find me at DrivingMaul on Twitter. Always up for good old rugby chat. You can put chat points, comments down below. Please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Face there if you're watching a recording, or obviously the red button down below. Box there gives the latest video. Obviously, subscribe on the good old podcasting app, 5-star reviews, and all of that kind of lovely stuff, because there are other stars, but why would you want to? And enjoy whatever rugby you're watching.